Going once, going twice, sold! You're listening to The Property Pod, an accessible and easy way to get into or help understand the goings-on of the property market. Join Aaron, John and Pat as they discuss all things real estate, most likely get sidetracked, and then try and rein it all back in as they present The Property Pod.
All right. Welcome back to the Property Pod. We are here on episode 32. We've made it to one of John's favourite numbers. I always remember at school you would always be...
32.
Yeah, here you go. Isn't it funny that when I think of the number 32, I think of my man Johnny Mac.
Yeah, we can thank Carly for that one because she just picked it out on one of those fast math things where you're reading it out like 4, 10, 15 and then all of a sudden you go 32. No, I couldn't help but not do this American twang on it. Episode 32.
Welcome to episode 32 and now you've learned a little bit about the way John talks about numbers.
That's it, or the one number in particular.
Yeah. How are we today, boys?
Very excited to hear our special guest today.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I think what we'll do is we'll jump straight into it. I just have to do a little bit of housekeeping. I received a correspondence from one of our Bendigo listeners recently, and I was very rude. I didn't write back. So, she was very, very big fan of the show, and she's said, look, I know you guys talk about Hobart a lot, but I love listening in Bendigo, and I'd just like to apologise for not getting back to her. So I just thought I'd pop it in the show right at the start so that she doesn't have to listen to the whole way through. And, so Paige, many apologies for not getting back to you. I've gotten back to you verbally.
All right, well, we'll have to find out if there's someone from Bendigo we can reach out to make it Bendigo specific for Paige. Got to make up for it.
She might be our Bendigo correspondent in the future. We might be able to reach out to her.
Go to her on the ground, you reckon?
Yeah, go on the ground in Bendigo.
Yeah, I reckon we can make that work. It's like my nan's very interested in being part of the show still, so...
There we go.
Yeah, chucking it out there.
If we get a good sponsor, we can fly your nan to Bendigo and stick him on the ground.
I love it.
All right, we are very excited, like I said, to bring in one of our favourite reps, Paul O'Loughlin from realestate.com.au. How are you this morning, mate?
Very well, thanks, John. Thanks for the kind words.
You're welcome.
Great to be here.
Sorry, just to chuck it in, Paul, I'm not part of the selling side of real estate, so I actually know nothing about realestate.com. My role on the podcast is to ask all the questions that the general consumer would want to know. So could you tell the listeners out there a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so a little bit of background on myself.
Start with your hairstyle.
Having good hair day. Yeah. Great hair for radio or podcast as it is, and an even better head. So myself, background in online about the last nearly 15 years actually. So I've seen it. I was a digital specialist with Yellow Pages. I've seen it from where people are going, well, this online thing might work, it might not work, might hang around from there to where we are today, really. And just listening to you guys before, we have so much information at our fingertips. And on devices these days, they're always on and people are always on them. So it's...
Well, that's it. We carry now a computer in our pocket that's more powerful than like computers that put people on the moon.
That's right. Yeah. It doesn't stop my children asking me questions when they're sitting next to me in the car with an iPhone. It's like, no, you have every answer there. Please just stop it with the questions.
I actually saw a video on YouTube last week of this kid in prep doing his homework. And it was maths. I might have been grade 1. He was doing his maths homework. And the kid was like, hey, Google, what's 1 times 8? And Google would give him the answer and write it down. Hey, Google, what's 300 and plus 25?
Yeah.
And he was writing the answer down. So he was clever enough to figure out how to use technology to cheat his homework.
Yeah, I wonder if that would be rewarded or punished in schools, because that's like taking initiative. That's really amazing.
I loved it. I was like, that's really cool. But note to self, turn all the microphones off in Google when Parker's doing his homework, because
it's that same thing of the teachers used to be like, you won't be walking around with a calculator in your pocket when you're trying to work out stuff at the shops.
boy, were they wrong.
Yeah, you've just got a supercomputer in your pocket. And it's interesting watching kids, and we had our annual breakfast a couple of weeks ago and we had a few guest speakers, and it's just interesting how children, my guys are nearly 10 and 13, and how they actually use phones and really artificial intelligence already.
Yeah.
So, we sort of use it, different generations and that sort of thing, but they're going to grow up with it.
Well, I'm seeing that shift heat. Obviously, you look at 20 to 25-year-olds, they don't want to call people, they want to text as their main form. And then I'm looking at my kid who's 6 years old and he just wants to voice activate everything. He's just talking to it all the time. So he's not even going to type on his phone in the future.
That's exactly
He'll just
it.
continue to talk to it because that's what everything he's ever known.
Yeah.
Which is a fascinating thought then, because if whatever comes out of that box is going to be trusted, and there might not be, there might be interesting to see if you have the thought of, okay, I know the box has given me one answer, but should I go and collaborate that with something else?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Which is quite interesting. So speaking of real estate, the way that kind of people will search for information, you'll all kind of be led to one place, and one of those key places is realestate.com.
Well, I think we're only led to one place now, isn't it, Paul?
I'd like to think so. Yes, I would like to think
Well,
so.
I think you brought some stats in, didn't you, on how the market's going and how...
Yeah, certainly from a search perspective, give you a bit of an idea of traffic numbers. So Launceston gets roughly around 90,000 searches per month. Hobart, the actual suburb itself, is over 140,000. There's somewhere like Sandy Bay, which is nearly 100,000 as well.
So is that individual people when it's
So that's actually uniques. So the numbers are actually pared back a fair bit.
Yeah, so they're bigger numbers because a unique person might look at 6 or 7 pages on your site, but they just count as one.
Yep,
one.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and there's a number of different ways that people actually arrive at our site now. So if you look at myself, a few years ago, I bought a property. I was passively in the market, and I say that because I didn't tell my wife we were looking for a new house. But I knew the area, I knew the type.
That's courage right there.
Yeah. Some people might call it other things. But yeah, I was passively in the market. As a consumer, I'd signed up for key suburbs that I wanted. It happened to actually be an adjacent suburb to where we were. It came through on the Sunday night. I had a look at it. I showed Claire. Tuesday we went through the house. Thursday we signed a contract. It was all done by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Bang.
And that's the thing. Then, like, that wasn't an agent reaching out. That was the website reaching out, giving you what you asked for, basically.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what we're conditioned as consumers really now.
Oh, yeah. Well, you look at anything now, like most of the things I buy online is because the internet told me I should buy them. Like,
Yes.
I'm not looking for things anymore. It's coming to me. And I assume that's starting to happen with how people are looking at property as well. I think you've got a social media product that you can use as well.
Yeah, so we've got retargeting products. So if someone's been on site and they go off site, then we can track them at an IP address. So we can actually put those properties in front of them once they've actually left our site from there as well. So,
well, you said before it started with Yellow Pages many, many years ago, and you said you'd been with realestate.com about 6-7 years.
yeah, it's going on to 7 years.
So, I mean, from when you started to today, what are a couple of big things that you've done as significantly different from when people were accessing real estate websites to now?
Yeah, it's certainly the confidence and just the ability to see everything.
Yeah, right.
You know, and your offline being your press does drive people to online. So, you know, where else can they see the floor plan or your images, videos and so forth from there. So certainly seeing a lot more people spending time online, a lot more people being engaged within listings as far as videos and floor plans and that sort of thing
Do you
goes.
have any stats on how long somebody might spend on an individual property? Is there
We've got session times.
Yep.
So the
that's-
session time for people is around 5 minutes.
and that's across the whole site?
Yep. So people are, when you think about our site, as opposed to, you know, someone just Googling something or kicking the can from that point of view, people come to us because they're very, very engaged. They're highly engaged. They're there for a reason.
I'd assume a 5-minute session to a general consumer might sound small, but I think what people probably have to understand now with things like your app where it's in their pocket all the time, that 5-minute session might be multiple times during one day.
Correct.
So it doesn't sound like a long time, but they could be checking it while waiting at the bus stop or, you know, while they're waiting for their morning coffee at the coffee store. Like they're constantly going back to it during the day to see if anything new's come in or
That's
changed.
absolutely spot on. And the way people view it, so you might have that situation during the day. You might sit down with your partner at night, say, this is what I found. What have you found in your feeds and that sort of thing. So they are very, very engaged, and that's why they're in and out quite often from there.
You were talking about the press as well. So you're saying kind of like print media, you might look at it in a real estate guide and then that's kind of like your teaser, but then you'll deeper into it with your floor plans and your videos and stuff.
Yeah,
So you kind of get a little taste of it by, oh, yeah, that's interesting. I'll now head to this portal and that'll give me a wealth of knowledge of the things I'm interested in.
Yes, yeah. So it'll do that. And from there, obviously, you can contact the agents direct.
Yep.
Tell them what you think.
I think the interesting word you said was confidence. And what I take from that also is that I think we're using a website like realestate.com.au, it's people having confidence in the brand and the information. So going back to that little anecdote about, people asking, hey, Google, it's that, they're going, hey, realestate.com, effectively. It's like, okay, this sold for that, this matched that. And so they're looking at this brand that they can trust. And I suppose then there's more trust now on the internet by looking at a real estate website than you will get from just reading print media alone. So you're looking for that extra information, but also to then you're trusting the internet to give you honest information. And I suppose the large companies like realestate.com and the data that provide give people that capacity to be able to build their knowledge in a way that they have confidence to further inquire.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And that's so we have two parts of the business. we have real estate agents as our direct customers, and without content, we don't have a website, but we have this massive consumer audience. So it's really putting those two together. And the consumer feedback is that we are a very trusted site. So they trust us. We obviously make sure that we keep everything in check from that point of view and accuracy of search. And when they're looking at something, you know, they're looking at a house, not a block of land or a chook shed somewhere, and, you know, with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. So yeah, we're very big on that sort of site integrity.
That sort of trust of data, I know that to be true so well, because if an agent here makes a small mistake when they're launching it, realestate.com flag the property, it gets set aside. It doesn't go live on the site until the issues that they've identified are rectified. So it's really good, because you might make an honest mistake, and quite often they pick it up for you and fix it before it's put out to the general public, which is really handy as well.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it's on us to, if we get it wrong, we're the ones that are in trouble, you know?
Yeah,
so it's a good little safeguard.
414 Real Estate has been operating within the northern suburbs of Hobart since 2006 with their innovative approach to marketing and managing your property. They have all your property needs covered. Find out more by visiting them today at 414.com.au.
I guess one thing I've always wondered with, from the guy being on the outside of it that doesn't sell the properties but works for you guys, taking the content that will go on to the listing sort of thing, so kind of making something look its best, with the sheer amount of volume that kind of comes through realestate.com, like how, or what's the best way to make a property stand out? Is there a specific set of guidelines that you guys have that say, like, this is...
Yeah, look, good question. I mean, we don't have those guidelines per se, but... Obviously, and we have an advertising vertical, if you like. So we have Premiere, which about 98% of the agents in Tassie are on.
Yep.
So if you think of that back,
I can't believe you wouldn't be on it personally.
Well, amazingly, yeah.
What do you got? Yeah.
In this room, it's 50-50. But if you step outside, it's about 98%. You're on it, aren't you, Pat? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Read into that what you may.
Paige, what do you think from Bendigo?
Nice.
Ka-ching. So you've lost me.
Talking about like Premiere.
Exposure. So if you think of your Premiere as your full page, from that point of view, so it's really going to get the maximum amount of eyeballs from there. So people can save that property. As we said before, they can get it sent to them. They can get it through RSS feeds and so forth from there. You want to have probably 20 to 30 photos. Not too many. Video certainly does have a deeper level of engagement.
Sure.
That shows that people spend nearly 50% more time on that listing if it has a video.
That's cool.
So, and floor plans, and I see a lot of them. And interesting enough, when Claire and I were looking at property, more me than Claire, the first thing she'd say would be, show me the floor plan.
Yeah, right.
And you want a floor plan, and I've picked up a few actually larger agencies on this. You want something that people can actually now, with tablets and phones, that you can actually enlarge and it stays
clear. Doesn't go blurry.
Yeah, exactly right. So, you know, your 3.5 bedroom by 3 becomes an absolute blur. So, and for someone like me that's now in my late 40s wearing glasses, it's certainly,
Well, no, they have that feature on your phone. You can just make all the font 4 times the size, Paul. Just turn that on.
You'll have to show me that.
My dad's got it, and I can't actually see anything when I open up his phone because it's like big giant icons.
What about 3D floor plans or the 3D
walkthroughs? Yeah. We have got some agents that do that for most of their listings. The thing is, you
don't know who, maybe me.
Yeah, I could mention a couple. Well, there's not many. Interesting enough, it probably didn't have the take up that everybody thought it would.
That it would take.
Yeah.
I think it's similar to video in a way. For me, video and a 3D floor plan is more your very serious buyer. It's the person that wants that extra information. And it's also, for me, it's been really good more on our cheaper properties than our more expensive homes because we have a lot of interstate buyers that want to fly down.
Yes.
And I've had a lot of them tell me that they've felt more comfortable about booking flights to come because they were able to use the tour and know exactly what they're getting for. They're not looking at the photos where Aaron's hidden things around the corner out of the frame of the photo.
Not that he would.
To make the photo look schmick. They're seeing it in its real life because you've got nowhere to hide with that 3D walkthrough. So
and that's the feedback, is that you need something that is absolutely schmick. And interesting enough, the place we were in before the one we're in now actually had a 3D video from there.
The other thing I really like about the 3D floor plans is, coming back to your 2D ones that you briefly spoke about, Paul, is that when we scan a home, we can pull out the 2D floor plan as what
Oh, yeah.
most agents put up.
Yep.
And when we use the scanner, it's something like 98.8% accurate of true to life.
Yeah.
So it goes down to 3 decimal points.
Wow.
Where I know most agencies that hire photography companies, they're literally using a laser measure and hand drawing it.
Yes.
And I don't know how many times when we used to do it that way, we'd get to the last room and it should be 3.5 meters and it's showing 3 meters on the floor plan when we're measuring the last wall up, and we're like, how's this possible?
Well,
So although those floor plans are really good and helpful, you do have to take them with a grain of salt because there could be small errors in them because they are 90% of the time done by
Yes.
human.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the other thing I really like about those 3D walkthroughs is you get a lot more accurate 2D floor plan as a result of it.
Yes, yeah, and it just keeps the consumer on your listing longer.
Yeah.
You know, and from an agency point of view, there's branding from the agent, and the more they're involved, the more likely they are to pick up the phone. I mean, it's interesting, and something that came out of the training that we did a little while ago with Tom Panos. There's no first dates.
yeah.
You know, so people are researching.
Can you explain that one to me?
So people will know a fair bit about an agent before they pick up the phone.
Okay.
And it's not just our industry. I heard one a little while ago, and the majority of the searches that are done on car sales are actually done from within a showroom or outside the delership. And I did it myself. I was
Oh,
looking-
you're walking in, then you
yeah,
bring
so
up the phone.
you've actually got it there. I did it myself. I won't mention which company it was, but I was looking at replacing my ute, and I was outside a particular one. I just Googled it, looked it up. I didn't even get out of the car. I just drove off.
So
Yeah, there you go.
when you talk about no first dates aspect, is REA developing like the Tinder of version to
No.
select your agent? So, you know, swipe. Oh, this guy looks good.
This house looks okay. Actually, you could do it with houses potentially.
Look, it's not the worst idea.
Yeah. Like if you're like they're saying, well, look, what kind of house do you want? Well, hey, hang on. Realestate.com can do a Tinder thing. It's like, here's 5 styles. Which one do you like? No, yes. And you map it through, and boom, now here's 10 matches to your Tinder profile. There you go. That's for your developers.
I'll think about whether I'll take that one.
Pass that on to Nigel. Get his thoughts.
Yeah, well, that'd be good. Unfortunately, Nigel's left, but yeah, he was good.
Oh, well, that put it down on the episode.
Sorry, Nigel.
He's writing a book, so I dare say it'll be an e-book.
Well, I mean, I remember we got the yellow pages delivered to our doorstep, and it's like the size of up to my first knuckle.
Yes.
Just how different that was, a decade ago. That was still, it was a massive book, and now it's, limited down. Now, one of the, I think the reason why I wanted to say that is now, obviously, we're going to the major portals to source all their information. They're doing 70% of the research before they're even picking up the phone to speak to agents as well. And there's one feature I think that you said earlier where now each property has its own dedicated page effectively, or own website that people can register. Like, that's my property, and keep me informed about that. How does something like that, that seems like a feature very not known to the public that they can access through that website.
Interestingly, we get a couple of million views on them per month. Without us doing a thing.
What does it actually do when you say keep me informed of my property? I know if my property goes up for sale, I don't need to be told.
So I even though I work from the bed, I as a consumer get sent properties that I've registered. I might have looked at from there, so it gives you an idea of if something sells in the area, what that property's worth. We've got a rental property, so that's constantly coming up as to what that property's worth.
Yep.
We have what's called a page for every property. So if someone Googles their own property, then it'll come up with some images. It'll also come up with some pricing. It'll be fairly broad. Generally, there's about $100,000 range.
Yeah.
But it is there to start that conversation with an agent, and they have the ability to select an agent in their area from that page as well. So, interestingly enough, 70% of people that actually buy a house don't have an agent in mind to sell the one they're in. So you think of a life event, might have had another child, they might be downgrading or upsizing or anything like that, or they just want water views like I did. People just don't have that agent. They're all about the house they're going to buy, and then it's pretty much a secondary thought as to what I'm going to do to sell mine, and who I'm going to get to do it.
And the hard thing is like, where the heck do I go to get that information?
Yeah, that's right. And that comes back to us being a trusted site. You've got Find an Agent on site now, and they can find out maybe what's sold in their area from the sold section. So there's a lot of information, and that really comes down to that. Yeah, no more first dates.
So John spoke briefly about the size of the Yellow Pages these days. That led me to a question, I guess. Is print dead these days, or has it still got a place?
Look, I think it has a place, and probably in Tassie, you've got one publication that does, 250,000 people. Yep. So, they can certainly work hand in hand. I think people now see the value in online now, and certainly the reach. So we have over 60%, about 64% of our traffic or our eyeballs come from the mainland. I understand that probably only represents about 20% of sales, but that's the highest in the country. So those people aren't going.
Geez, that's interesting, isn't it?
Picking up a print publication because they're not going to get their hands on it.
And that the thought then is that there's so much interest in the state. Obviously, there's, like you said, it only represents 20% of the sales, but you track that over the next 20 years, and there's every likelihood that a lot of those people are going to be moving down this way as well.
Yeah, and it comes back to the affordability thing. Our economist, Nerida, I think she's the second most quoted economist in real estate at the moment. She's forever talking about Hobart and Tassie and how much she likes it and how much everybody else likes it from that point of view.
Is it not just people moving, but kind of people investing in the state because of the affordability that then it's kind of, you can kind of build your monopoly board?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We sold Claire's mum's place up in Georgetown a few years back, and the people that brought 10 houses in a week.
Yeah, right.
I remember Pat going through a week where he had a guy and he, was it 3 that he... Pat's not listening.
Oh, no, I was contemplating your question, thinking one guy that bought 3 in a week.
Oh, did he buy 2? He went and looked at 3 and he ended up getting 2 or something, or he put offers in.
Yeah, I don't think he bought them all through us. I think he bought one from us and then another couple from another couple of agents in town. But he was here to buy multiples.
And he essentially, set up his little monopoly board and he was ready to go. And so it was just a fly in, fly out. Yeah. Which is an amazing kind of idea of, like, you can buy one place in your Melbourne or Sydney, or you can buy 3 and put the hotels on them and bonza. Do not pass go. Do not collect, or collect your 200.
Hopefully don't go straight to jail.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing what I forgot, this is going to be tracking back a bit. We actually forgot to ask, what's your specific role in realestate.com? Like you said, you've got all these people. I mean, it's a massive organisation.
Yes.
Nerida obviously is the chief economist. And then, so in your specific role, Paul, and while we got you here, what is it that you do?
Certainly not podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't think we should do them all.
We're working out pretty quickly, I think. Yeah. Look, a lot of my role is probably 95% of it is education of the agents. So it's my job to be the go-to person for agents for products, how things work, what's coming out.
Why you should use one.
Why you should use, one product versus another, that sort of thing.
That 50% of the room, apparently, is that what you're leading to, Pat? Yeah.
So clearly Paul's still got a bit of work to do in that education process.
As old stubborn Scotsman.
Well, they have come along the journey. Let's say that. Yeah, so, and about 5% is, looking after the contracts and so forth from that point of view. But yeah, I really like it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy property, and I think it's a pretty enviable position where I am. I'm sort of in real estate, but not in it from that point of view. And after my dealings with real estate agents with Yellow Pages in this seat, they're a lot nicer to me.
Well, I tell you what, you must have jumped off Yellow Pages right as the ship started to sink.
I did actually. I had a couple of years where people were just taking money out of print and putting it into online, and ultimately that kind of led to the demise of Yellow Pages because they had so much money tied up in print. People just going, right, well, I can reach this audience and,
I think
taking it out of it.
Google as well was the demise of Yellow Pages. Now you just search a business and the number's there. The purpose of Yellow Pages is to get contact details, and now you just search it in an search engine that tells you the answer straight away. So,
I guess then you've got a measurable reach with all this online data where it all can kind of be calculated back to, like, this is how many, like you give us some stats earlier. With the Yellow Pages, it's just out there. Just, geez, I hope someone finds me on page 322.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the beauty I like about online. It's accountable and it's measurable.
Yeah.
And really, if you're talking any level of advertising, it needs to be that.
And
otherwise
especially,
you just don't know.
What I like about online versus print, I guess, is, like you said, the analytic aspect. If I'm spending a client's money on their behalf, I need to be able to show that it netted a result. So being able to get access to those reports, like what realestate.com produce, that we can then give to our vendors to show it's had this many clicks, it's done this, that's what I think can help people understand the marketing journey and the investment that they're making in a property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right.
As a family family run business, First National Real Estate McGregor understands that the property market can be stressful. However, with a strong team in both sales and rentals, we are here to guide you through the property maze. Find out more today at mcgregorfn.com.
Yeah, because that's one thing that, like you said about accountability, a lot of consumers might not know that when the property is listed with the agency that's chosen to represent, realestate.com is helping them map out, okay, here's where your interest is coming from, here's the amount of clicks you're getting, and what are there some other features that realestate.com is doing for the consumer through the agent to help make that process easier?
So you can actually deep dive into a suburb on realestate.com. So you can type it in, and we'll give you information around that suburb, demographics as far as age and so forth.
Yep.
Medium property, house pricing, rentals, supply and demand in that area.
Does it do the school catchment zones?
It does schools, and that's actually on listings now as well.
I know that's not huge, probably in Tasmania, but
it's getting bigger.
It is?
Yeah. I mean, I was just chatting with my partner about it, just asking about the catchment, and in her field it's getting much tighter in Tasmania. I know I suppose if you've got loyalty to some school and you're sending your kids to there, no trouble. But if you really need to search for a better catchment, it's getting more.
Okay, so people are making decisions based on schools in the area, are they?
Yeah, I reckon it'll start to get more that way.
And a lot of schools are clamping down on out of area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you have to own a property or live in that area.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a good example where it's amazing, again, what the information you're producing, because if you are building a campaign or you're trying to consider what the means for that is, or you are choosing an area, you can go, what's the demographic that I want to live in? So we were just chatting to a friend of mine recently, and they'd bought into an area where Halloween was massive. Their whole street got into it. Their kids and the parents were running up and down the street, and it was an absolute beautiful night of it. In a lot of respects, is because the demographic of that area is young families. So it's that element. If you're doing that suburb research, and I've got young kids, I'd love them to get involved in Halloween, a few things like that. Well, you can look up look at a few suburbs, and maybe the one that's most prevalent with young families might be the suburb you want to invest in or move to.
Yep.
And it's been really hard to get that information now. And it's just the fact that you can jump on realestate.com and okay, boom, there it is, demographics available. And I mean, that information's been around a long time, but the handy thing about it is that obviously the website's moving towards having the consumer being able to stay on there longer and get more information that's useful for them.
That's exactly right. So we want realestate.com.au to be that number one place for people to go for property, but for information, so they don't have to go anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we've made a lot of investment in different companies and buying data companies and so forth as well. So, yeah.
So just before we finish up, moving forward into the future, is there anything that realestate.com can let us know, like what's coming? Last week we talked about virtual reality. Will you soon be able to virtually buy homes or?
Yeah, look, it's something we have an R&D department. We spend about $20,000 an hour on R&D. An hour. Nice. And it's actually more than that, but don't tell anyone. Yeah. So
just between us,
we
our 12 listeners,
13 now. I'll listen to myself all day long. We're future proofing our business, and in turn that future proofs the real estate industry and agencies from that point of view. So we have to look at consumer trends, and sometimes agencies don't like that, but you know what? We've got to stay ahead of the curve because we've got a business that we've got to run.
Yeah, for sure.
So you think about Google Glasses. We tested those. I've actually used them in head office and stuff like that. It never really came to market, but we had to be there.
Yeah,
we've got to be at the front of how people are going to search and look.
That's what I really liked. I was lucky enough to go with Paul to head office last year, and when we went down to the R&D section, it was really cool how they explained that they will go and develop things, and some of those items will never go to market or never be used, but if that trend becomes popular, they can turn that feature on straight away because they've got it ready to go. They're not playing catch up trying to then bring to market something at a rush. They've already been prepared for that potential trend.
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, again, it's just that future proofing from there. And probably one of the best analogies, which was from Nigel Dalton, who unfortunately doesn't work for us anymore, but he's our futurist and so forth. And one of the best things he said was the guy that invented the floppy disk didn't invent the flash drive.
Yeah.
That's like a Mac Attack wisdom word right there.
It truly is. I love that.
This time it's What's a lock? No, I don't know. A lock block. Okay.
I think we'll leave Lachlan alone. But that's and probably the other one. People say to us, who could challenge us and who could take us on. I mean, anybody with a large audience, which is Google or Facebook and so forth.
Yep.
But the other one I love is that it's a bit like the greyhounds. You got 6 greyhounds in a race and they're running around, and the 7th one jumps over the fence and scruffs over the rabbit and pisses off with it.
Yeah.
That could happen.
That's really interesting, Like, no matter how big an organisation is, it's always vulnerable to disruption.
Absolutely, and we internally disrupt ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
From that point of view, and that's why we do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today. That was probably one of the most interestingly recorded ones. Hopefully we can clear a lot of the rubbish out of our recording here. We appreciate that you humoured us with our professionalism that come across on the mics.
It's great. It's good fun.
Mate, thanks for coming along. I mean, realestate.com's great organisation. I'm really, really grateful for the fact you come and spend your time.
No, that's fine. Just tell your dad.
Yeah, got it.
We want to get to 100% in this room, John.
No, that was great, mate. Thank you for coming in, and we'll get this all out to our listeners as soon as possible.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Bye. You have been listening to The Property Pod, produced and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Real Estate and McGregor First National Propriety Limited.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek and use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this